All right, welcome back to another video session, streaming session, gaming session, D&D 5e session with SirLucien on the SirLucien Gaming channel. I have a wonderful group of people here that are players from the Seeking Revonar campaign group. You have several faces that you've seen now over many actual adventures. We've seen Iravel quite a bit, and Dubrin in several, and Eingar in several. And you would know Logan from Monster Squad, but he will be playing a bard tonight. So we'll get to introduce that character here coming up. So you will recognize all of our players. We're on a different night. It is a Tuesday night. I had a work engagement yesterday, but I thought I wanted to throw a game together on another day. And usually this is my night for playing Tomb of Annihilation over on Anaris's channel. But we're on break at the moment until the beginning of the new year when we start that back up, and we've got like 8th or 9th level characters. We're in the city of Omu, and we're going through some really cool things. And where we left off in that campaign is I picked up a puzzle cube and my character was immediately turned to stone. And our group had to decide what in the heck we were going to do about that. So definitely stay tuned on Tuesday nights. Normally is that show over on Anaris's channel as I try to get my brain engaged here. But tonight we're going to play Seeking Revonar, which is my mega campaign. These players have stuck with me through weird scheduling and trying new things and doing some new rules, and we're going to see some new things coming up for the new year. I have some changes that I want to do, but tonight should be a pretty standard game as we start off on our expedition out into Revonar. And tonight's expedition is being led by Dubrin. So he has gathered some stalwart adventurers from the Laughing Inn. And I probably should get my notes open. That's the other thing I should do. To go out and try to seek fame and fortune out in the dangerous wilds of Revonar. So there we go. Yeah, now we're hearing it. Cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off like we always do. Typically, the way it works is off camera or off scene, off session. We have an expedition leader will coordinate with players, bring them in, and organize them. And in game, we're thinking of them as Dubrin has gone around and has told kind of those in the inn, or even told Rula, who's the proprietor of the inn, that he plans to go out on expedition. And that typically will draw in some of the adventurers that are either coming back and they've rested and they're ready to go back out, or have some time to go, or trust Dubrin to lead them out into the wild forests and jungles and mountains and plains. And so we kind of have this probably scene where we see Dubrin going around and talking to each of the members and telling them about, he has this plan about where they're going to go. And one of the things that we would see is that at some point as he's talking to each of them, there is a large table that sits in the Laughing Inn, or am I saying that wrong now? Why do I always get this wrong? I always got to go to my notes, places. There we go. Overview. No. Bastion. There we go. Why am I missing everything? Because it's been 2 weeks since we played is why I'm missing everything. We might hear some craziness as dog sitting goes home pretty soon. So there's going to be some crazy noise during that. All right. So the lovely coin. That's what I meant to say. Not the laughing coin, the lovely coin ran by Rula. One of the main features of the lovely coin, which is the only inn in Port Bastion, also known as Fort Bastion, was this giant table that has been carved to look like the topographical, almost 3D look of the lands that surround this port town, this city, this little. It's not large enough to be a city yet. It's more of just a town at this point. And as these adventurers go out and they come back, they fill out or they carve more in 3D almost the different areas that they uncover as they go. So we can see where Dubrin has decided that they're heading up north on our map, and we'll see it here in a few minutes when we click over to the Roll20 map real quick, and we'll take a look at that, and we'll see that they're going to head to the north to a ruin that has been sighted, and a rumor out there that there's something out there that's worth investigating. So I think where we'll pick our game up is we'll go ahead, and we always typically start with our expedition leader starting out in that morning, coming down the stairs. We like to do a introductory session so everybody can kind of know what each other look like and what their characters look like and a little bit about them. So we'll let Dubrin start off as you come down first. Go ahead and describe your entrance down into or wherever you come from for the lovely coin, and then we'll bring in the other characters. Awesome. So you're the first one to arrive, and we'll just keep it moving along. Anxious to get back out into the world, we see Iravel make his entrance. Go ahead and describe a little bit about what you look like, what people see as far as your look, your gear, your demeanor as you come in and meet your expedition leader, Dubrin, at the table.
Armor, and I've got my weapons at my side, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. All right, so we have Dubrin, and now we have Iravel at the table. We'll bring in our third member who has gone out quite a few times with Dubrin and Iravel. They've known each other for at least a couple of expeditions and probably have hung out in town a few times while we've in between the sessions. Each time they've gone out, there's usually a week or two in between before they go out on another expedition. We have Eingar comes in, our dwarven stalwart character. So I'll let Pellinor kind of describe him as he comes in and joins his table again. Give us just an overall look at what people would see, kind of the gear you have on you, and then your kind of overall demeanor as you join your companions at the table. Oh, you're muted.
Igar comes in, walking in nonchalantly with his scale mail on, his backpack over his shoulder. Looks like he's just ready to move on with it, and walks up to the table, orders something to drink, and hey guys, let's get it on.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so we have our fourth and final member, somebody we have not heard from before, brand new character, probably came off of one of the ships in the last couple of weeks. Now, one of the things you three have already noticed is there has been a huge influx of new adventurers to Port Bastion. There's been a lot more ships than normal. In the past, over the last couple of months, there might have been one or two ships that come maybe a week, but it almost seems like one or two ships a day are arriving at this point. And it seems like adventurers, entrepreneurs, all kinds of, even just people that you think shouldn't even be here at this point. They're obviously going to die if they ever leave the walls. But there's just a huge influx of new people coming to this land. The word has obviously gotten out, and everybody's here to try to stake their claim. And it's become kind of like this real gold rush kind of feeling town all of a sudden, this booming town. We see our fourth and final character come into the inn. So go ahead and describe what you look like, kind of a little bit about your gear and a little bit about your demeanor as we see our newest character come in.
All right. Milton. Is Mike working?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Milton is clearly elven. His clothing is rich, but obviously faded and worn. so he might have been rich at some point in time. He's been in the inn for weeks, so you've probably heard him sing. That's how he's been making his money, but clearly he has not been making a lot of money, and he is desperate to get out and make more cash. Does not strike you as a brave sort, though. Not someone you would normally grab for an adventure, but he's hoping to prove his worth on this run.
Awesome. So you kind of meet up, and we have this scene of you sitting down, and I always like to give the group a moment to kind of give us what this breakfast looks like. You guys can go over and kind of give us what's the conversation like, who's talking to who, what are you guys even talking about, what's your plans. This is your time to start planning, make sure you have all your gear, that kind of stuff, and just role play out the scene of the breakfast real quick as far as the introduction of Milton to the group.
Well, Druben will be eating way too much, having ordered more than he could have eaten, so he very eagerly offers extras to anybody who hasn't sorted out their own food.
Milton will be slightly, I don't want to say disdainful, but he is clearly more used to high manners at a table.
Thanks, Druben.
No worries.
Irovel will have some nibbles, but otherwise he'll stick to his own meal.
Awesome. All right, and we see Rula kind of makes her way over to your table, and she kind of gives like a gentle pat of camaraderie to Dubrin on your shoulder, and kind of points at the table where you guys are kind of looking down at the 3D kind of cutout area of this, and points to where you're heading out. And she's like, so heading to the north. Not too many people heading north. Seems like everybody's been heading west.
Yeah. And you get the sense that he's not really that confident with direction, north, south, east, west. He's like left, up, but he's like, yeah, well, more where others haven't been.
Yeah, and she's like, she kind of looks at each of you across the table and says, you know, I like to keep tabs on all of you ruffians. Want to make sure that all of you come back. Revonar seems to eat up too many of our companions out there, and want to make sure that you make sure you stay on your toes. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears listening.
Did she just call me a ruffian?
Yes.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, newcomer. You'll learn. This is like a frontier town.
Maybe in these ruins we'll find some direction towards local dwarven clans.
Possibly. To the north, there used to be the orcs, but they've been gone, and there seems like, from what I've heard from my contacts, is that the orc camp's gone missing. Nothing's up there anymore. But that's the way you're heading, so keep an eye out. If you happen to see maybe they've moved, or maybe they have a new camp, or if you see anything that, you know, might indicate what happened, let me know. I'd like to know what was going on up there if I can find out. And then
Definitely keep my eyes out.
Yeah, and then she waves over, and the servers come over and give you one last drink, and then we see our companions begin to gather their gear as their breakfast is completed. It's early in the morning, but they want to get a good jump on their expedition and get out there. And so we see, let me move back over to my area here. Here we go. It's crazy we're using so many screens to do this. Here we go. So, and we see our very common scene as each of our intrepid party members head to the door, Dubrin leading them out, and then Eingar bringing up the rear, about to close the door. And as they're walking through the inn, you see lots of other adventurers that are resting, lots of adventurers that were maybe drunk from the night before, lots of adventurers that maybe have just arrived, maybe some even other expeditions that are heading out. And as you stand up and you're heading to the door, we see Rula over by the bar once again, and she shouts out, "All right, you mongrels! Raise your drink for those who've never returned." And a moment of silence until all hands are held high in homage. And you see everybody in the inn begin to get a drink if they didn't have one, raise it high to each of you four as you walk out in homage to you going out on expedition. And as everybody's mug or glass or whatever they have, drinking implement, horn, whatever they're using to drink is raised, she shouts out kind of what has become the adventurer's prayer in the lovely coin. "O gods and goddesses, both new and old, protect the fallen, guide the living, smite those sorry asses who are too afraid to face the beast." And then you hear the whole entire inn yell the word beast at the very end in unison with her as you guys leave and you shutting the door, and you hear that kind of reverberate. Which is a very common scene as expeditions go out each morning. The first thing you recognize right away, and you noticed this a little bit when you came in, is that the snow crunches a little bit under your feet. It has been cold. It has been windy for the last few days, though you do want to find more treasure, fame, power, whatever it is that drives you outside the protection of these walls. You have realized and you have dreaded the cold that you're about to enter, or at least stay out in much longer than you have over the last few days. The temperatures have dropped quite a bit down. We're probably talking below zero at this point during the evenings, and it gets darker quicker. It definitely, there's a lot of dryness to your skin. There's a cutting edge to the air, and the wind chill brings that temperature down a little bit. During the day, it gets probably just warm enough to get rid of the frost or start to melt some of the snow, but then it quickly freezes again by the time early evening comes around and into the evening. And carrying extra blankets, extra winter gear that you had already gathered, you head out, and we see as you begin to trudge slowly as a small little drizzle of snow comes out of a kind of a pitch gray sky where you can't really see the sun too much. We start to see just the sprinklings of the shoulders and the gear and the hats and the heads of and the helmets of our adventurers begin to collect a little bit of snow on their way out. It is going to be a cold journey as you head north. So let's bring our characters over. You guys are looking at just our generic token screen. I'm going to go ahead and bring our audience over to take a look at that for just a second. And let's go ahead and show them, while we can here, the map. So I believe under, if you guys want to look at it too, you don't have to, but there is a world map, hopefully, that everybody can see. And they are heading, let's open this up a little better. There we go. They are attempting to head up to this area here under the, we would call it the E22 area. And that's definitely more north than most of any of the expeditions have gone, as you can see. Most have headed west. But we haven't had too many head north yet. We've had just a couple head south a little bit too. So you do know that there is a temple that was cleared out along the coast. You know that in the mountain areas, just as you're getting into the mountain areas to the north also of camp, you know that symbol is where the old orc camp used to be. We've had a group go out there, and the rumor is that it's deserted at this point. There's a ruin that nobody has, it was sighted, but nobody has gone back out and looked for yet. You're going to be kind of passing by that. You might see it, you might not on your travels, and you're going to hopefully be heading north into that more northern area. So hopefully everybody can see that. So, all right, perfect. So now for our March's game here, we do a little bit different stuff for when we are traveling because we like to get right to the action. And so we have a little thing set up that allows us to kind of go through several steps as we travel. So the first one that we do is we have one of our character is going to be the navigator for this expedition. It is their job to try to lead them to the correct place. They're focused on looking for the landmarks that are going to get them to where they want to go, and it's kind of their job to find the easiest route. I mean, there's lots of routes you could go, and they're the ones that are making the decisions. Do we go down in this gully and follow that along? Do we go up along this ravine? Do we go around this certain mountain or mound that we found? Do we go through this swamp or whatever it might be? They're kind of making those choices and decisions for our character, and we call that the navigation roll. So for your expedition, Dubrin, who is going to be making your navigation roll today?
Our trusty dwarf will be.
Awesome.
I'll
Dan-
be going ahead and
Oh,
look
go ahead.
around.
Can I do bardic inspiration on these rolls?
These are straight rolls that don't have anything to do except for the person that's rolling it. So no aids, no helps, no spells or anything like that.
Ready for that roll?
Almost. Needed my pen real quick. Okay. So this roll, so for I always like to explain it a little bit for our audience just so they kind of know what's going on. So this roll has a DC value. He's going to use a survival check to see how well he does when he makes this roll. And I create a DC that they don't know about, but I create a DC based on several factors, one of the major ones being how far the expedition is actually going. This one's a pretty not too far expedition, so it shouldn't be too bad. So let me go ahead and check my DC for this one. Let me bring this up again. So it is... Okay, so yep, I have the DC ready. Go ahead and make your survival check. All right, so it is a not enough. So what this does is during the trip there, you actually you kind of follow some deer tracks, you follow some animal trails, you get a little bit more west than you thought you were going to, and you end up adding, this should have been about a 3-day trip there and a 3-day trip back. But because you kind of got turned around a little bit, Eingar, you actually added 2 days to this. So instead of it being a 6-day kind of round trip, depending on what goes on, it's actually going to turn out to be an 8-day trip. This matters so that when they get back, they're going to refresh their rations, and they have to spend money on their rations. All right. And let me mark. So that was Eingar that did that.
Sorry about that, guys. Got a little turned around.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So now we do another roll because there's 4 rolls that we make on these trips, and the expedition leader works with his team to decide who's going to make one of the rolls. Each character can only make one roll, and if they happen to have more characters, like sometimes we have expeditions that go out with 5 people, then there's one person who doesn't make a roll. So we only have the 4. So that one is done. Let's go back over to my notes so I have everything. All right, so the next one is typically we have what we call the foraging roll. This is the person, it's their job in the expedition to keep an eye out for food and water, but they're also keeping an eye out for, there's a lot of things that the town needs, Port Bastion needs, and it's on the outside of the walls, but only adventurers typically go outside the walls. It's too dangerous for anybody else to go out. There have been some farms, and there are some small communities starting to form just on the outside, but to really get to some of the other stuff that's out there, especially like the apothecaries and anybody that's, needing some type of certain types of plant material or certain types of, whether it's flowers or roots or weeds or, plants, could be animal hides. It could be all kinds of different things. that the forager will be able to bring those back or something special back and sell that in town. And that helps offset the cost of the expedition if they're successful. So I have my DC for that. Dubrin, who's going to be making the foraging roll for you?
Our trusty bladed elf Araval.
Okay, sweet. So, Aravel, we are ready. I have my DC, so you can go ahead and this one is a nature check.
All right, here goes nothing.
Okay. So, Irovel tried to keep an eye out, but it's snowing, it's icy, it's obviously winter time. It's much harder to see anything that any of the apothecaries or anybody in town had kind of posted. Usually what they do is they post flyers or they talk to adventurers and the word kind of gets around, or they might mention it to Rula and Rula might tell people, hey, we're looking for silverleaf, or we're looking for sungrass, or hey, I really need some night hag root or something like that. And if people keep an eye out for it, they can sell it. But Irovel, you've been really cold, you've kept yourself bundled, you're trying to stay warm, and you were not able to see anything that seemed like you'd be able, at least not even enough that you'd be able to bring it back and sell anything. So, all right. It's been a rough expedition so far. Okay, so then we have our, what we call kind of the vanguard role, or this is the role to try to make sure the party doesn't get itself into trouble while trying to get to where it's going. It's very easy to get sidetracked. It's very easy to get pulled into a fight with some big giant animal, or get pulled, walk across some type of patrol of something, or, there's all kinds of dangers out there, and there's a person who's trying to keep an eye out for those dangers and make sure the group has a way to get around them if they have to, so they don't have to spend resources on dealing with it. And they try to keep the party safe. So we call this the vanguard role or our encounter role. So Dubrin, who's going to be doing the vanguard for our expedition today?
Which check is the vanguard role?
It's going to be a stealth check. This is how well this player is able to make sure your group isn't seen by stuff.
That's what I thought. I believe our new friend, the Bard, will be sorting that one.
Okay.
He looks suitably surprised when you say go out in front and scout for us, but he will go up. I still don't have my character sheet, Dan, so I'm just going to roll dice.
Oh, yeah, let me hold on 1 second. I just pushed it over and I forgot to assign it to you. Well, you can see it, right? You just can't edit it.
I can only see the bio and info portion of it.
Yeah, here you go. Oh, nope.
Although
now
the dwarf and an elephant walking behind him, he feels confident that he can be a little more quiet than the people.
Well, here's a good thing, too. What was Milton's reaction to seeing Dubrin? Because this is not a humanoid creature you have seen before.
He's been hanging out in the lovely coin for a couple of weeks at this point, and between a giant walking humanoid elephant and the rest of the monster squad that has been roaming in and out, he is actually pretty calm about it.
Awesome.
Doesn't faze him at all. He's clearly a world traveler and more than a little weary.
Everybody's getting used to the likable Dubrin and is getting used to seeing him about the area. All right, cool. So a 14. Let us check the DC on that. Where's my notes? Keep clicking off my notes. So for that one... All right, so I need to know a couple things first. Does anybody have heavy armor in the group?
Scale.
Okay, so 1. All right, so that's going to be that. Is any person wearing medium armor in the group? All right. are any of you in the group arcane casters?
I think 3 of us.
Yeah.
3. Okay, so all you needed was... Oh, it was so close. Yeah, you're actually, no, you're right on the DC. You're right on it. So, Milton has done a good job during the trip on the way out. One of the things that you came across was what looked to be like one of probably the biggest brownish bears, but you wouldn't call it, you would almost think of it as like maybe a cave bear or a dire bear or something enormous, something larger than you've seen. It looked to have several cubs following it, and you notice it before it notices you, and you help the group to kind of bypass that whole situation and just move out of the way before something untoward happens for either you or those animals making their way through the forest. You're able to make sure that your group kind of bypasses that without having to deal with it.
Milton's clearly afraid of giant bears.
And this has got to be the biggest bear you've ever seen. I mean, this is twice the size of any bear you've ever seen, probably. Enormous. All right, so that leaves us with one more roll. And this final roll is we have one person who keeps an eye out, keeps a sharp eye out, because all the other people are making sure they're going the right way. They're looking for things that'll be useful to take back to Port Bastion. And one of them is trying to keep everybody safe. So our final person has their eye out, and they're looking for other places that might be explorable. So they're looking for ruins that are off in the forests or woods or off down in the hills, or something that looks like it might be an old cave. It could be an old town or village. It could be temples or shrines. It could be ruins of some sort. Anything that might indicate another place to seek fortune and glory. And this is what we call the rumor roll. This is the roll that gets brought back and then gets added to the possible places that expeditions can go out if they happen to see something, and is the opportunity for our West Marches style map here to expand and add in more things for people to go do. So this one is just a pretty straight DC. There's no modifiers to it. It's just either you do or you don't. I have that set. That means the only person we have left is Dubrin. So Dubrin's going to be making our rumor roll. He's trying to keep an eye out. And this one will be a perception check. So we will need a perception check from Dubrin.
On its way. Not great.
All right, so no new rumor. Success, yeah, failure, no sighting. So yeah, so no sighting, Dubrin. Okay. So, and it makes sense because probably the group is more focused on chattering teeth from being so cold, trying to keep the wind from cutting in. It's all just kind of, everything's covered in a slight sheen of different colors of white. The wind is blowing and it picks it up and puts it in the air, and there's fog here and there, and then it clears up again, and then the sun isn't really out. It's overcast, but it's that steel gray light, and it's just hard to see things. So we don't see anything there, and we continue on. So, all right, so that is our travel, and that does include on the way back. We'll describe a little bit of that as long as our party survives the trip back or wherever they're going. So we go several days in our trip, and we get to, well, we'll start with the first day because I always like to see what it looks like. So you guys travel your first day. It's been uneventful. You've not seen any, really anything but you out here. You've not seen tracks in the snow. Every now and then, with Milton kind of ranging around, he's seen a few animal tracks, but they look days old, and they look like they've been starting to get covered in by the newer snow. Nobody has seen too much else around, and we get to the first night where the group finds and decides on a place to camp. You come up in this area that has what seems to be like these big trees that would remind you kind of like of a pine tree, very green, needle-like branches, and it's kind of the only green you see. Most of the other trees have lost their leaves or don't have leaves, so it's just the branches that you see that are all almost like a dead wood kind of thing. But these ones have green in them still. You can see the needles, and the nice thing about them are these big sweeping bows that have kept the snow from reaching the ground. So up underneath several of these large ones that grow close to each other, you find that you could just kind of put your camp for the night up underneath the boughs of these big giant pine trees, and you kind of set camp. So what's this look like? What does it look like when you guys you found your spot and you begin to set up and get ready? What is this? How's this all look for you guys? What goes on? And I see a lot of talking in chat, but
Milton doesn't look strong enough to pick up a shovel, let alone dig a fire pit.
So what does he do?
He will keep a watch, I guess.
I'm going to work on a fire pit, get a fire going, and eyeball some of these pine type trees. See if there's room underneath one of them to get a good sheltered area for somewhere.
Yeah, they're big enough that it almost forms like a large enough shelter that you could have a group of 7 or 8 or 10 people up underneath these, and it's kept the ice and the frost off of the ground around it. It's almost like this circle of non-frosted area. Pine needles or some of the dead needles that have fallen are kind of bed the area. It actually feels like once you get some type of windbreak up maybe, and maybe a fire of some sort to get some warmth in there, it might not be too bad.
We are not going to start a fire underneath there because that'll just melt all the snow and ice that's on the tree and put it on it.
All right, so Eingar has intelligence.
But fire will make us warmer, honestly. Like it's
Put it just outside of the tree, and we'll put up a wind block on the other side of it to reflect the warmth into under the.
Drubrin's big enough to be a wind block.
And what about Iravel? What's Iravel up to?
Iravel is going to get started working on a lean-to.
All right. So it's really easy to do with the way this tree is already kind of giving you a natural, and you're able to find some other branches that you can cut down or were already kind of broken down and still have stuff on them, and you can move them over. And you guys make a pretty cozy camp, at least for something that's going to be out during a wintry time and out in. But you're a hardy adventurer, so you can stand this. So our party of so we have a it's an interesting party that we're seeing here because we have a dwarf, we have an Eladrian elf, correct? What is now with an Eladrian, you pick what your mood is, correct? Is that how that works?
Actually, it's a season for me.
Yeah, like a season.
He's clearly in a winter season right now. So
okay.
He's actually mostly white hair, pale. The cold still is bothering him though. So.
All right.
But he's again more distant, and I might explain some of his aloofness if you knew anything about Lad.
Cool. Our other elf is a Shatterkai elf, so that is an interesting other rare type of elf. And then we do have Dubrin, obviously, which we've been talking about quite a bit, which is another super cool character. So we have this kind of eclectic non-human group, mostly a few elves, a dwarf, and then our Ravnica, our race add in here. And we see this, and maybe the camera just kind of pans out as a quick dinner is warmed up. Everybody kind of sets up a watch for the evening to make sure somebody keeps an eye out. And we see each person get bundled up in their extra blankets and extra bedrolls that they brought for this trip. And we have a pretty uneventful evening in camp. And this is kind of a similar thing as we go through the days. We see the camp kind of end up being very similar to this. They kind of get into a rhythm of each person kind of doing their thing. All right, so it is on, let's see, what day would that be? So looking at our map, I believe it is on the 3rd day. You were expecting to be kind of where the rumors were of this ruin of some sort, because you didn't have a lot of information on what you were looking for. You knew kind of the general area where you should start looking, and you thought you were going to be in that area now, but once we got turned around a little bit, Eingar got us turned around a little bit on a few of those animal trails. It's actually taken you an extra day to get there. And what we've seen is when you've gone through, let me bring our map up again a second. So leaving Port Bastion is like a beach and plains on high cliffs kind of area. It quickly moved into a light forested area for your first day. By the second day, it started to get into a much heavier forest, a much deeper forest as you began to head more west. And you started to see hills and more ravines and more elevation changes as it became a much hillier kind of more cliffs and style of terrain as you begin to go north. And you go through that for another couple of days. You don't seem to see the ruin that somebody must have seen previously, the one that you thought you might come across, but you don't see any sign of it. You've kept your eye out, but you didn't pick up on anything. And it's on the 4th day, as you've kind of made your way back, you're coming down out of what seems to be a lot of elevation changes over the day. Like you'll go up kind of like a hill, almost minor mountain, back down, back into, wooded, and then back up and back down. And what you can see as you're coming up out of this area is every now and then you catch a glimpse of what looks like this wide open plains that looks like it goes to the horizon, like it doesn't even stop. It must go for miles and miles and miles. You have mountains to the east. You have hills and mountains and forests to the west. To the south, every now and then poking up, you see the giant mountain that is everybody kind of calls Spider Mountain down to the south of you. And you use it as a landmark to try to keep navigating your way, as you can pick it out through the forest canopy every now and then. So you think you're getting close to the area. And who would be, so it was probably Milton up in front who was trying to keep an eye out. Milton, go ahead and give me a perception check as you're coming down this forested area, and it looks like it's going to head down into this big flat plain pretty quickly. All right, so, okay. So you don't see anything as you're coming down. But the first thing you do notice is you think you smell a campfire. And it stands out because the only campfires you've smelled has been at night when you've made camp. That's not happened any other time you guys have been traveling.
Gonna go back to the party and ask Drobrun if he smells anything. Because clearly he's got a better nose than I do.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, and I head on over a little bit. Can I cast guidance on myself?
You can. Well, tell us what it looks like. Tell us how that works.
So when guidance is cast, you see the tattoo-like markings on his trunk begin to glow and come up and just encircle around the person he casts guidance on, in this case, himself.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead. All right. So as you're looking down through the trees, you are catching sight of, you think you see flickering flame. You think you see the cast of orange and reds It looks like it's probably still a ways off, and there's so much forest, and still you guys got to come down kind of this mountain you had been climbing to get to it. But it's clear now to you that the wind is coming from the south, or coming from the north, heading south. And that was the thing that Milton picked up, is that you think there's probably a source of fire, but you can't quite get a good look at it. You feel like you're probably a half mile out from it yet.
And that was from the north?
Yep, from the north, in the direction that you were heading.
Should I continue on? Do some more scouting?
Yeah, probably. Maybe stealthily.
All right. He'll turn around. He was kind of hoping you'd say no, and head out to scout.
And just before you leave, you feel a trunk on your shoulder as guidance is cast upon you.
Thank you. So I'll move ahead as stealthily as possible and scout.
All right. So give me just a sec as I move some stuff around here. Oh, okay, so there's guidance. So you get a 1d4 added to your stealth roll. So go ahead and make your stealth roll. I didn't see it yet. And we see Iravella's back. A little camera glitch there.
Yeah, my router decided it needed to reboot.
Oh yeah, that always happens. All right, so 10. Okay, so you feel pretty stealthy. I mean, you're moving from tree to tree. You're going from shadow to shadow. Your companions kind of watch you, and you're making like this huge trail through the snow that's easily seen. And they're kind of wondering why a few of the bushes you picked to hide behind really don't have anything in front of them, or they're not quite sure that would actually hide you, but they're giving you the benefit of the doubt as you begin to move your way down. And you go down probably most of the way, and you can see flickering of flame. And as you get closer, probably within about 100 yards or so, you're hiding and crouched down behind a log that has fallen over. It's got some snow on it, and you're peeking over it. And what you see is what appears to be a wagon that's kind of facing you, but it has no like animals or anything attached to it. And then there's another one that appears to be on fire, and that's kind of obscuring the rest of what you can see.
No people of any sort?
You wait a moment, and you're not really seeing anybody from your position. You're still a little bit up above, but it's almost flattened out at this point, and you're kind of looking on, and these wagons seem to be probably, you're guessing, maybe 7 or 8 feet tall. They got pretty big wheels on them. And they definitely are like a wooden wagon. And one of them looks like it has a cover on it, not like a cover, but a tarp of something on the back end of it. One of them's clearly on fire, and we've got smoke coming up. And you think maybe even there's probably a tree on fire somewhere off to the side too, the way the light is cast and stuff you can see. But there's kind of like around the whole area is just a light haze of the smoke that's coming off of the burning wagon.
Well, if there's no snow on the ground that provide any kind of tracks,
well, from 100 yards, from 100 yards out, you're not seeing too much.
I don't care. I'm just gonna turn around and run back to the.
All right.
And let them know what I saw.
All right. So we see Milton head back and quickly make it back to the group. He kind of relays to you how close he got and what he saw. What's the group do?
Should we all approach with caution, What say you all?
I'll follow your lead.
Advised.
Let's approach with caution. Maybe swing around to the left or right so we can see what's on the other side. If Milton didn't see exactly what's on the other.
Yeah, when Drubin hears Zangai say that, he's like, "Yes, let's do that. That's a good plan. Yes."
I could have Edgar fly around to the other side to give us a bird's eye.
Even better.
Make it so. You're muted, Dan.
Can't hear you,
Oh,
Lucian.
everybody who's trying to sneak down needs to make a stealth roll. We see Irovel fall and just slide down the hill. No, okay. So you guys begin to kind of fan out and move around. And what you see as you kind of make your way around and you try to see it from a different angle, and you have the Raven kind of see it from another angle. You can tell now that there's definitely 4 wagons that seem to be stopped in what appears to be maybe an old trail, not necessarily a road, but definitely maybe an old game trail of some sort or an old pathway. There is one of the trees is on fire. One of the main wagons is on fire, and you have now noticed that it does look like there are bodies laying in the snow area here and there. But you do not see any movement other than the flames themselves. And you hear the popping noise and the crackle of the fire, but that's it. Other than that, it's just the whistling of the wind.
Unless someone stops him, Drubin's gonna quickly jog over and see if any of the bodies are.
Does it appear to be a hand-to-hand fight, or are there a lot of arrows sticking around place?
You don't see any at the moment. You feel like you'd have to get closer to be sure. You don't see arrows sticking up out of the ground, but you might be missing them. I mean, you're staying far enough where you think you won't be seen and hiding and ducking and moving around. You don't think you see any. You think you'd have to get a little closer to be sure.
If I see Drubin moving closer, then I will follow him and look a little bit closer for the type of fight that might have been here. And how is there snow piled up on the wagons? How long have they been?
Yeah, so let me bring you over to the map. You guys are going to be in the bottom portion, which is the direction you were coming from, but you can go ahead and move your token to where you think you'd be kind of entering the area. So I'm going to transition our group over to so that the people watching can see. So the first thing you notice is definitely there's a fire near a wagon that looks to be turned sideways. Again, you don't see any animals or anything that were pulling the wagons. The second wagon in the line of 4 is caught on fire and seems to be burning pretty well. The tree over on the east side has caught fire, so the whole entire part of the tree is just on flame. And then you see various bodies on the ground as you begin to approach, and they all seem to be either laying face down or laying face up, crumpled on the ground. You don't see any movement. And you probably have counted or at least spotted somewhere around 5 or 6 bodies at this point. And the 2 wagons in the back seem to still have their covers on, whereas the 2 in the front, the covers have come off, have either blown off or been torn off as you approach.
So Drubin would run to the first body that he can see to see if anyone is alive.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and move your token. Anybody else?
Irovel will move around the perimeter, looking for any blood trails leading off in any particular direction, just making a circle around.
Okay.
The whole thing has Milton freaked out. He's going to stay close to the dwarf,
Okay.
who he perceives as the toughest one in the group.
Nice.
I'm hoping he's right.
Druben tries to see where Edgar is.
Yeah, let's bring in Edgar. Do I have him? I should give you... and boop. Let's put Edgar on. So you get controlled by Azer. There you go. You should be able to
We'll
move
go to
around.
the back wagon and check out the bodies and see what's in the back wagon.
Okay, it'll take you a few seconds to get there. Okay, so, all right, and so let's work through what's going on then. So first things first, we would need a perception check from Dubrin, who's going to be the first one to get to the body. As you begin to look at this body, you can do this with, or if you are trained in, what's the medical skill?
Medicine.
Medicine. You can use that if that's a higher score for you, or you can just use perception.
I'll use perception if that's all good.
Yep, that's fine.
And with guidance.
Okay. So we see the flaring up of the tattoos again, and we see the what's now become common for you. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing you notice as you get up, you can feel the heat coming off of the wagon. You see that there is a tarp cover that is laying on the ground. It doesn't seem to be damaged. It looks like it's just been pulled off of the wagon. And as you get to the body, you can tell that the chest has been torn open. And there are singe marks, and it looks like the body must have suffered some type of burning. And you can see the tracks that it looks like it came from the second wagon. Something happened, it fell off, crawled, and then just kind of obviously has died. And when you look into the glassy, starry eyes, you can tell that this person has passed. You do recognize them as to have elven features.
And relay that information.
All right. Well, yeah, okay. And while that's happening, we see Eingar and Milton kind of move ahead of you. Eingar, you get up to that area, so you go ahead and give us... Now, a search will take a few more minutes than just a quick glance. So you can go ahead and do an investigation roll while we see Milton, you see kind of Eingar look at the body, maybe, look through what's on the body, what's going on. And then you see him start to look through the wagon area, and this will take a minute or two as you go through. So we'll come back to Eingar doing that in just a moment. And then our last, Iravel, as are you going clockwise or are you going counterclockwise? Show me which route you're taking first. Go about a quarter of the way.
Yeah, I'll be going counterclockwise, or no, clockwise.
Okay, so go ahead and move yourself move like your double movement. Where would you end up? Okay, so you're going that way. Okay, so you go ahead and give me a perception check as you are kind of more focused on getting an overall picture of what's going on. Okay. All right. So what you see is the three fires are putting up quite a bit of smoke. It's a whitish with a little bit of black smoke in it. There's definitely a haze that's settled in. It kind of burns the eyes just a little bit. You definitely have counted 5 bodies for sure. You do see tracks that have gone past you that look to be like horse tracks or hooved tracks that seem to have gone off into, further out into the woods and the light woods that you're in now. And you've seen it like several of these tracks. So it's more than one, though you're not getting a really good read. Your roll wasn't good enough for you to discern, how many or how big or where they were going or that kind of things. But you do see some tracks. And at that point, as we see our dwarf kind of crawling up onto the wagon to get a look at it, we see Milton staying close to Dwarf and Drubin, and we see Iravel making his circuit around the camp. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the night, maybe our only one. We'll be back in 10 minutes after we go and get drinks and use the facilities, and we will come right back. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We have plenty more to go, and when we come back, we will see what they find in the wagon here as we try to figure out what is going on before they even have made it to the ruins. So stay tuned. Don't go too far. We will be back in 10 minutes. Bye-bye. All right, our players are back. They're ready to go. We swing back into our scene as our party has come across some what appear to be wagons, some bodies on the ground, and no other movement around. I'll show you the map real quick so you can see what they're seeing. And the other thing that we see also, Eingar, one thing you do notice when you're looking at the body is that body that's right next to you also does not appear to be alive, is currently dead, and also seems to have elven features. As you begin to kind of climb up into the wagon area. So you're kind of halfway on the wheel, and you're kind of, there's this big heavy tarp over the back end. And as you look to the front of the wagon area, you can see where most of the harnesses to whatever pulled these wagons have been torn. So you can see parts of it still attached to the thing, but other parts are either on the ground, and you can see tracks that seem to just lead off in random directions. And you kind of, it's a flatbed wagon, and there's a flat tarp over the back. And as you kind of lift the corner up, in the back, what you see appears to be a whole bunch of maybe like bolts of cloth of some sort, maybe and it just seems like the whole wagon is just filled with these textile kind of goods, stacked in the back all the way to the underneath the tarp. Like there's no other room in there, but just all of this stuff stacked in there.
Hey guys, they must have been coming from a textile mill or something. There's a whole lot of rolls of fabric. Not much that robbers would want, though.
We're out in the middle of nowhere. Who hauls fabric overland like this?
Who builds a textile mill way far away from the guard?
Madness.
I'm gonna look and see if there's any indication on these wagon or on this wagon as far as whose wagon it is. Is there a company name, anything?
No, you don't see. Like if it was dwarven wagons, they would be. You're used to stockier, lower, built sturdier to haul rock and ore, and usually the woodwork on it is good, but the woodwork on these wagons seems to be in really good shape. But you're not seeing, nothing leads you to believe that it's dwarven wagons or human wagons, which is very common for human wagons that you've seen to have, like you said, like a name of a company or a symbol, a maker's mark, that kind of thing. These have a very different look to them manufacture-wise. They don't resemble a style that you've seen. The wood is not even of a wood that you necessarily recognize, though you know it is planks of wood and such. It's obviously from a tree that must not be common back in the Sword Coast where you're from. They must be using some form of tree here that's not native to where you're from.
Well, these wagons, they don't look familiar to me, but maybe there's a settlement or a group that is native here north farther that is trying to take goods down to Bastion.
And of curiosity, does the wood of these wagons look anything like the wood from the ship that we were on?
Nope, doesn't look like, doesn't match anything that you would recognize wood-wise. It's clear that it is wood. It just looks like it's a different type than you've come across before.
What about the other wagon?
Are people moving?
I'm hugging that tree.
Okay.
I'll go have a look.
Sure,
Come on,
would have been
Milton, let's go
checking
have
out
a
all the
look.
dead bodies.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and start moving your tokens where you're going. Okay. So Iravel, you stop your circuit around and you come back, or are you going to continue your circuit around?
Oh, I would continue my circuit. I thought I had already done that.
Yeah, no, let's
I did
put you
have
like
one
the next part of
question.
it. Go ahead.
With the horse tracks that I had found, I was wondering if I could check to see if any of them seemed significantly deeper, like they, pardon me, may have had a rider on.
No, your perception check told you that you could see some tracks, but you're not really getting any. It's hard to tell any other information. They all look scattered. They look random to you. It's clear that they ran off out into wherever, but you don't see anything now, and you haven't gleaned any more from that. And go ahead and maybe get to maybe like the 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock position. I think that's where you would be when the others move to the next spot. Yeah. Okay. So again, Eingar, as you get close to this next wagon, go ahead and give me a perception check, and then also Dubrin, while you move up to that wagon and that other body that seems to be on the ground, you can give me a perception check also.
I saw nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So you see a body.
Anything?
A lot of smoke. Yeah, no, a lot of smoke. And well, I wouldn't say you get advantage, but depending on what your role is, I may give you more info. But
no worries.
Yeah, I think the smoke is really hurting the smell.
And it's affecting my perceptive capabilities.
Yeah. So okay, so you do see the bodies. Eingar, you see another body. It's clear that this body's not moving. It appears to be dead. Eyes are open. Again, chest area seems to have been torn open in some way. As you're looking at it, you think it's clearly another dead body. And then it appears to be another wagon of similar make that also has a tarp strewn across it as you begin to approach that one. As you get closer, this big tree that's on fire next to it, you can kind of feel the heat coming from that. And you do see another body over on the other side of that wagon, which also appears not to be moving face down. Drubrin, you kind of crouch over this body again. Once again, seems to eyes have glassed over. The only thing you recognize is seems to be of an elven heritage and has similar wounds to the other one and is clearly dead. Is not breathing, eyes open, glassed over, and you can see the raven seems to be inspecting the corpse over there. The wagon next to you, the tarp is halfway on, halfway off, but the back of this wagon seems to be half empty. Like the part that's not covered has been emptied, and it looks like there might still be some crates or packages or something underneath the part where the tarp is laying over the half of the back, but you don't really see too much of it as you get close. Iravel, go ahead and give me a perception check, please. Ooh.
Something over 10.
Woo!
There we go.
All right.
Good job.
Just as a side note, Edgar is performing last rites for these people, for the Raven Queen, which mostly involves a lot of pecking at entrails.
Okay. All right, so
come over here and help me.
Just as we see that, Iravel, you get to probably the 3 o'clock position. You're moving around and staying away from the tree that's on fire. And at the very last moment, a shadow streaks over you and past you, and you see it on the ground, and it's as you're turning up. Everybody select your tokens, and please roll initiative for me.
There's my 1/10.
That's great.
All right. So let's select that. And let's do, yeah, I think you guys would do that. And make sure you roll initiative for the Raven also. Do we ever create a character sheet for that, or we just I'll just create? You tell me what you roll for that.
Yeah, I don't think we've made a sheet for him yet. I'll look it up real quick.
Edgar. All right, while you're looking that up, we'll descending 16. Ooh. All right, so what we get is Eingar, you don't see it yet. Iravel, it was trying to, it used a stealth check, but your perception roll was just 1. It had rolled a stealth of 15 and you rolled a 16. So you saw the shadow. You're going to be able to react. It's not going to get a surprise on you. The others, this will be a surprise round, so you won't be able to react in round 1. You'll be able to react in round 2. But Edgar, who did roll well enough, immediately Edgar's danger sense goes off, and he immediately realizes there's danger as we hear the whistling of wind along these leathery flapping wings, and everybody out of the corner of your eye, because you're looking at other things at the moment, you see a flash of red streaking down from the clouds. Eingar, or I mean, let's see, not Eingar, Edgar. So we're going to go there. So Iravel. So it's going to go before Iravel can go, but you will get to go on this round. So it streaks past and over you, diving down out of the smoke and the haze that is left here. And we see a flash of red heading for over towards kind of the Drubrin area. It's probably still, I don't know, 30 feet or 60 feet in the air, streaking down almost like at a 45-degree angle in a dive. You see the size of it is not the size of a full dragon. This seems to be a much smaller, much younger dragon streaking out of the sky. And at the very last moment, we see a burst of flame come out of the mouth as it streaks down. We need Drubrin. I need you to go ahead and make a DC dexterity saving throw for me. This would be a good one to make. Nicely done. Perfect. Yeah, that's what you needed. As you dive out of the way, you actually see it streaking, and I'm going to let you actually move. It's like a 10-foot dive out of the way. And then you just see, actually, let me grab this. Yeah. 30-foot cone. No. At this point, also, Edgar has moved out of the way, too. He was able to fly off. He did not get caught by this. And you quickly realize that you weren't necessarily the target, which is probably what has saved you, but this flame engulfs this wagon. And then it lights on fire as this thing swoops in and then is on its swooping way out as we move. So we just see this big gout of fire, and then we'll get rid of this, and then we'll just say, sure. Control.
You hear Drubrin yell out, "Fire breath attacks will light things on fire, don't you know?"
And all right, so then it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 to finish its move. And it's basically swooped in, just lit that wagon on fire, and is beginning to rise back up. At this point, it's probably about 15 feet off the ground, and it's clear that it's rising and heading back up at this point. And you just see the swoosh of this flame, and you feel the intensity of this heat as we get past that. So that is all of them. We get to, in this turn, Iravel, you will be able to act during the first round. What will Iravel do?
Okay, first I am definitely going to activate my Blade Song, because that's my bonus. And that'll bump up my movement speed and my AC.
Blade Song is a 1 minute. Is that
Yes,
correct?
1 minute.
All right, so we got that on there. Perfect. And what's that look like again? Tell us what it RP it.
I'm trying to remember what I said the last time.
Make it up.
I'd say it's like black mist swirling around my arms and legs as I just kind of have a slight blur to their movements.
Awesome.
And then I will go ahead and approach the wagon that has just been lit on fire and check how far I can make it. And I have a question for you.
Sure.
Would shape water be able to move the slushy melted ice?
I think what we have is more of, I would say it's wet-ish, but it's definitely not like a foot of snow that's then melted and you have a big pool of water. It wasn't like that kind of snow. So I don't think there's probably that much water there. I think you'd have to, like, what's the spell say for how much water it needs to use?
Let me check real quick.
Sure. While you're doing that too, I went by Eingar's turn because you were surprised during this round. But while you saw this thing swoop in, you're halfway on the wagon. You're looking over at it. Go ahead and give me a... this would probably be a nature check for you to recognize what it is. Okay, you will recognize it. And then Drubrin, as you dived out of the way. You can go ahead and also give me a nature check. Okay, good. Milton, you're not quite up yet, so okay. And then Iravel, after you find out your spell, you will also get a nature check to see if you recognize this creature.
And that is a 5-foot cube of water.
Yeah, there's probably not that much.
Okay. In that case, I will go ahead and use my action to attempt to cast Blindness Deafness on the creature if it is within 30 feet of me. I'm not sure.
All right, let's find out. So to the front of it would be 25, but it is 15 feet off the ground, but I still think that's... That's probably about 30-ish feet. I think it's probably close enough for you to attempt it.
Okay, then I will use my action to do that then.
Okay.
And I'll also roll that nature check.
All right. All right, a 10. Got it. And let's see, they need to make a check. A con save. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's put it so you guys can see it. Yeah, okay.
And he makes it.
Yeah. Eingar and Drubrin. Actually, let's go ahead and have Logan roll it too, real quick. Milton, go ahead and roll me a nature check as you see this thing swoop in and swoop back out. Probably with advantage. You're a bard, right? So 17. Okay, so 17, 2 15s, and a 10. So Iravel is probably the only one. You think, dragon, obviously, from the dragon family, but Drubrin, Milton, and Eingar realize that there are several types of dragons, but this is obviously one of the younger types. You would pretty much consider it a wormling dragon. This is before it gets to be a young dragon. So still very dangerous. It's the size of, say, probably like maybe a lion or a tiger, that kind of body size, not the big size that you would be expecting, and not the size of the one that has been seen flying at times over and past the town. There have been reported sightings of a enormous looking red dragon that has been sighted. This clearly does not match that description as it swoops out and then begins to rise up into the haze again. So, all right. Anything else for Iravel?
That is it for me.
All right, Milton, you were surprised round. You see it. So we get to the top of the round. We are now on the top of the round. This is round number 2. So we start off with Eingar. You're halfway on the wagon at this point. What do you do?
Eingar will drop off the wagon and take his round to pull out his bow and get ready to use it.
Okay, so you get down off the wagon, and where are you standing? Right where you are now?
I'm going to try and put as much of the wagon between me and it as a little bit of cover.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and move your token where you want to be. Okay. Now, the one thing you see, Eingar, is you think you see this body right here. You think you see it twitch or move a little bit. But other than that, you're just readying your action and you're taking cover. And then is there anything else you want to do, or?
If I see that body twitching or trying to move, instead of readying my bow to attack the young dragon, I will go. When I have time to do it, I will go over and try and pull him away from the tree that's on fire. Just try and get him out of harm's way as much as possible.
Yeah, you could, on your normal move, you could have walked all the way around the wagon, got to here. As an action, I would let you use what normally would be a dash so that you could move another 30 feet. But I would let you probably get to, back over here, and maybe it's drag the body this way. Drag that person.
That's what I'll do then.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe check and see if he's breathing while I'm doing it.
Yeah, as you grab them, you can tell that there's like the hand kind of reaches up weakly as if it's trying to help grab onto you. You can see blood is pouring out, and you hear what you think is whispered words, but there's so much going on. There's noise, there's wind, the fire's crackling, and you're still dragging the body, and you begin to move it away. Okay. That will bring us to Edgar. I would think Edgar, our familiar here, this is a flying predator swooping in. So what does Edgar end up doing, Irongar? Or Iravel?
That is a very good question. I think for the time being, he is going to take shelter behind one of the unburning trees.
Okay. So, yeah, you can go ahead and move him for his turn as he hides. You can probably even do like a stealth check with advantage for him because it's clear he does not want to be seen by the predator. While you're doing that, we see our dragon burst. It's hit like the bottom of its arc about 15 feet off the ground, and then it's just skyrocketing as it flaps its wings back up into the smoke and up into the haze, and it just shoots up out of sight. And you just see the swirling of the smoke and the swirling of the haze that's all around this area as the enormous amount of air movement that's coming from its wings and the power of its flight streaks back up into the sky and then up out of sight. That brings us to Drubrin. You are narrowly missing being just blasted with dragon's breath fire. You've kind of dove your way, so you're kind of on your belly at this point, having dove out of the way of this streaking creature. What do you do?
So do you say he's gone out of sight?
Yeah, he's actually gone far enough up, in, and out of sight again.
All right, well, I'll get myself back up, probably move a little bit, and take the dodge action.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead and go where you'd like to move to. It's half your movement to get up, so, and then you'd still have your other half. And then you're wary, trying to get ready to dodge out of the way once again. All right, any bonus action for Drubrin?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, so that will bring us to Iravel. So Dragon has streaked back up into the sky out of sight. What would you like to do?
I am going to head to the wagon that it just fire breathed and try to get around to the other side that isn't quite burning yet. And just do a cursory glance, see what's in there, see if there's anything that I should try to pull out.
Okay, yeah, so as you go ahead and make your move, see where you get to. Yeah, so you kind of, the tarp that's on it's half on fire at this point. The heat is blasting off of it. You kind of whip a corner off, and it's clear that there are crates in here. There's clear that there are containers, but you don't see anything else. It's cargo of some sort, but you can't tell what type of cargo.
For now, I'm just going to start grabbing what I can and just chucking it out of the wagon so it's safe from the flames.
Okay, go ahead and give me a strength check. Let's see how well this goes for you. Oh yeah, okay. I'll keep that in mind. That probably equates to you're able to pull out of the way. Obviously, what are you going to do with your weapons that are out?
I actually haven't drawn my weapons yet.
Oh, you don't need to have weapons out for Bladesong?
Nope, I only lose it if I have a heavy weapon equipped or two-handed.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so it's probably going to equate to you're able to pull out 4 crates, and they kind of crash to the ground, but you don't think it's better than completely burning up, but you're able to pull them out. And then that wagon just the fire catches quick, and the rest of it is caught on fire. And if you try to grab any more of that, you think you could probably grab one or two more things, but you definitely will burn your hands if you do. But that'll be your turn. That'll be your action. Blade Song goes down to 9. That was movement, action. Any bonus action stuff?
Yes. My
Okay.
other bonus action remaining is going to be casting Shadow Blade.
All right. So you're going to cast a spell. Tell us what that looks like.
You just see that same kind of black mist that's been swirling around my limbs kind of coalesces at the tip of my hand and forms into a semi-solid blade of crackling black energy.
Awesome. All right. That brings us to Milton. Everything's happening fast. There's lots of noise now. There's new fires. What is Milton doing?
I am running for the dwarf. And as I run by him, I will quickly remind him that he is a dwarf and that they were meant to fight dragons, and give him bardic inspiration as I dive underneath them. And bardic inspiration is actually a bonus action, so I will also peer out, hold my action for a when the dragon gets within 60 feet.
Okay. All right. That brings us to the top of the round. So, Eingar, we're in round number 3 now. You are up. What would you like to do? Oh, you got muted again. Oh, you're muted, Pelner.
I'm going to call out to Drubin that we have a live one here, and pick up my bow again and try and find the young dragon.
Okay.
Get ready to shoot at him. And as a bonus action, I want to cast Hunter's Mark on the dragon.
You do not see the dragon.
Okay.
Okay. What languages do you speak, Eingar?
Common and Dwarven.
Okay. As you move the body, now are you stopping there? Or are you doing any more moving? Go ahead and move where you're going to go if you're going to do some more.
I'm going to stop there and kind of stand over the live body until Drubin gets there.
Okay. Okay, so you're going to stay there. So, Milton, go ahead and give me a perception check. This will be for hearing, if you have anything special for that or not.
Got giant elf ears.
You hear in the Elven language, whispered, obviously from this person that this elf that Eingar has dragged to this point. You hear several words that don't seem to be coherent. It seems like the person is kind of babbling a little bit, but you hear save them, and then you hear the word agony, and then you actually hear like this expenditure of breath from this person, just kind of like this. All right. Brings us to Edgar after Eingar is done. What's Edgar going to be doing? He's hidden in the trees at the moment. We're not hearing you.
Sorry. I'll send him up over the smoke to give me a bird's eye view of where this dragon is and when it's going to dive back down towards us, if it's going to.
All right. How do you convince Edgar to do that?
I promise him a nice, gigantic feast when he returns. When we return back to Bass.
You can tell there's a humongous amount of reluctance. There's a humongous, why don't you do that kind of, but then you see him flap off and you lose sight of him as he rises up and heads into the hazy clouds. All right.
He does have a fly speed of 50 feet, if that matters.
Okay. That brings us to our wormling here. Okay, so everybody can hear the flap of leathery wings. Sounds like it's definitely above you. Sounds like it's much higher, but you still have no sight at this point on the creature. And that brings us to Drubrin.
Well, Drubrin will probably, after hearing that we've got a person who might be alive, will move on over. Does he still look alive?
When you get there, go ahead and do your medicine check. It looks like this person has passed. Like when you look over the body, you don't see any more rising of the chest. You don't see any heat from the breath. The body feels absolutely ice cold, though everything feels super cold at the moment. When you probably get over there and you kind of think maybe in the heat of the battle and everything happening so quickly that you think maybe Eingar was mistaken. Is kind of like your assessment, because it looks like this person's dead.
Yeah, I gesture towards it and look confused, like, oh, this elf seems dead, and I look around at the sky, and I'm still very, very worried and very much aware of this dragon. And I'll continue to move the rest of my movement to there, and I guess take the dodge action again.
All right. That brings us to Iravel. Oh, muted.
Sorry, I always forget push to talk.
That's okay.
Having heard the call out that there was somebody alive, and knowing that these are elven brethren of a sort, I will go ahead and also jog over that way.
Yeah, so far everybody you've passed and everybody has seen, everybody here has been elven.
I can just make it over there. And I'll ask, is this the one that was alive? And did he say anything?
Yes, this is the one, but I'm not sure what he said.
He said, save them, something agony. Let's pay attention to the dragon. Fellas.
May I attempt a medicine check to stabilize the bleeding? I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but...
Medicine check, yep. Yeah, as you were checking, you are sure that this person has passed.
All right, and I will just keep my eyes peeled for that dragon then.
All right, that brings us, so Blade Song's down to 8. Milton, under the wagon, under cover. Your turn. Bottom of the round.
He's gonna eyeball Aravel and say, "Is your sword actually glowing with like Blade Singer magic?" Is that a yes?
It's no sword. This is just pure magic.
All right, that's pretty impressive. He'll pay some compliments to your powerful elven magic and give you bardic inspiration, and continue to hide underneath the wagon with his one spell.
Remember the good old days of AD&D. One spell, and it was called Identifier. Something stupid. All right. Top of the round, Eingar. It's clear that as you've dragged the body, the person was so wounded that they clearly were on their last legs. Both of your companions have checked the body. You can tell now, too, that the person's neck is kind of lolled over. You can see where there had been quite a bit of wounds, and now you can tell there are these big claw marks across the chest and torso of this elven woman. And you do recognize that these elves, they have the features of what would be known in the Sword Coast probably as like high elves. They have those types of features, those type of hair colors, and though their clothes are very different than the fashion that you would have seen or known the elves from the Sword Coast to have worn, and you have not seen this style of wagon before. That the elves in the Sword Coast would have used. They would have used something very different. So though they share those features and they share what you think are probably high elf in nature, there's still something different about these elves than what you've seen before or been used to from the Sword Coast. How old is Eingar?
Let me check.
Yeah, is he a battle-hardened dwarf that's been around, or is he a young one?
60.
So pretty young,
So
probably, for a dwarf, right?
fairly young.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're at the top of the round, and it is your turn. What would you like to do?
My friends, these look like elves from back home, but a little different. Other than that about them, I can't say. I don't believe I've seen them around Bastion either. And I'm going to be saying this as I'm scanning the sky looking for the young dragon. And I'm going to yell up in the sky, "You little worm! Why are you bothering these good folk?"
All right, anything else?
I'm going to move away just a little bit so that we don't all get hit by one breath weapon. About to there.
Bardic inspiration's making your body right checks can't cash. Dragons, bad.
And as soon as I see the dragon, I'll get my bow ready to shoot at the dragon as soon as it shows itself.
Okay, so like a hold action to fire your bow. Perfect.
Correct.
All right, so that brings us to Edgar, who is at this point flying up in the haze and the smoke and the clouds, still searching around. You're not getting anything from him, so he's just kind of searching like you've asked him to. And then our dragon, round number 3, swoops out about 40 feet above the ground is when you all see this creature. Let me see here. So it's 40 feet off the ground, diving down towards. That would give Eingar's held action. You are able to fire your bow as your held action. And we see it in a dive.
Can I cast my spell too?
It's 40 feet up. Do you think you can see it from underneath the wagon?
Well, I'm definitely looking up, but
Okay.
6-foot range on the spell.
Yeah, then you can cast if you had a held action. Yep. So let's do.
Who had it first? Who held their action first?
Well, yours was at the bottom of the round, and then so you hold it until your next turn. So yours would happen first, I guess. Well, it's just when you see it, so it's whoever sees it.
Okay. I hit that dragon with fairy fire.
Okay. All right. So 20-foot cube up in the air. Has to make a dexterity saving throw. All right. Let's see if it can do that. Here we go. Ooh, so what we see is we see your magic. What does your magic look like as it streaks up towards the dragon?
It would just be a explosion of blue, I don't know, fluorescent color appears in the air, and I guess the dragon would spot it.
Yeah, so we see it jink out of the way and then come back on course as it hits it, like it erupts right before it, and it just kind of bumps out of the way and then continues its dive as you almost like a wingtip gets close to hitting it, but it just kind of moves out of the way. Okay, so then the arrow. Oh, Eingar already fired that off, and 18 is a hit. Nicely done. Go ahead and roll damage. 4 piercing damage. How dare you, sir?
And don't come back.
Yeah, let's see what kind of stuff it has here. All right. Okay, so we see an arrow hit it. You are sure that you've hit it. You are sure that you've done a little bit of damage, but it's clear you did not hit very solid. It's slightly wounded, and it lets out a roar as your arrow kind of then flies off, as there's just like a little cut along one of the upper shoulders and the arms of the wing. And then it dives straight down 40 more feet, 5, 10, 15, and it lands on the ground and just slams to the ground, roars at all of you, and then tries to, as its action, bite Drurin. So it's just a melee attack, it looks like. So it rolled a 23 to hit.
Yeah, I think that hits.
All right, and then, wow, it does way more damage than I thought. 13. Go ahead.
It should have been I was dodging, so it should have been at disadvantage.
You were right. Let me roll one more time.
Yeah, it doesn't change it.
Okay. We'll take the first one. So 13 piercing damage from teeth, and you can feel the hot fury breath behind it gives you 2 fire damage from behind that.
I am down.
Oof. It lets out a roar, it shakes its head, and it drops you on the ground and roars at the rest of the group. And then it needs to make a quick roll here. Okay. That did nothing. That was its turn. That brings us to Drurin. Oh, okay, so Drurin, here we go. It's a tough fight. We're just getting started. We got a player down. We need to see a death save, please.
That's a fail.
Oh boy, 1 fail so far. Mark that down. That brings us to Iravel. So in just an opening of an eye, we see a spell go off. We see an arrow fly by. We see a dragon land on the ground, and the ground shudders when it happens. Bites into Drubrin, throws him on the ground. What does Iravel do? What does Iravel do?
Seeing my ally already felled, I will go ahead and I am going to use, I don't think I've used this before, my Blessing of the Raven Queen.
Nice.
So my bonus action, I will teleport up to 30 feet, which I will use to put me directly onto the dragon's back.
Ooh.
Okay.
And I will then make my attack with my Shadow Blade.
All right. So let's do, so you're on the back and it's obviously going to try to react to you. It's going to try to throw and shake you off. So I think this would be like an opposed roll. So I think you could use athletics or acrobatics. It's probably going to use its brute strength. And I think it would be opposed to see if it's able to dislodge you. You will still get your hit as whatever happens, but or at least your attempt to swing. But let's go ahead and do the opposed roll to see how this is going to work out.
Okay.
So kind of like a modified grapple in a way. So he's just going to use strength. All right. So you can feel it try to shake you off. You kind of keep your footing. You keep held on. So now go ahead and do your attack. Yeah, 26 would hit. Ooh, 8 psychic damage. Nice. It lets out a scream. All right, and it's clear that it's going to try to throw you off, so each turn that you try to stay there, we'll do an opposed check to see if you're going to be able to stay. And really, it's not super big, so it's like you're trying to stay on the back of a lion or like a cougar or a mountain lion, maybe a smallish bear. This is not like a big dragon, so this is not like, Dragon Riders of Pern or something like that. These are not that. This is not that big. All right. Anything else? Because was that a bonus action to do the Raven Queen?
Yes, it was. So that's
okay.
Everything.
Yeah. Okay. Everything. All right. Milton, our bard, you were up. Your spell was ineffective. You see this comrade of yours you barely know, but has asked you to go on this expedition, is now laying on the ground bleeding out. You see this crazy Shatterkai elf on the back of this dragon, hitting it with this awesomely cool shadow blade of some sort. What do you do?
I'm going to cast Healing Word and hit the downed elephant.
Or Loxodon. That's what I forgot it at the beginning of the show. I couldn't remember the name of it. All right, so 7 magical. What's this look like as, give us this. This is the first time we see Milton's magic from the bard.
That's actually just going to be him whistling a little bit. You're not going to see much there. It's all an audible piece. So you're going to hear him whistle a wintry bird cry, and that's his spellcasting portion.
Okay.
And so he gives him 7. As a bonus action, he's going to unleash a string of dragon-based insults about this giant red gecko that must have crawled out from underneath the rock and do a little vicious mockery.
I was waiting for vicious mockery.
At the same time, making himself as small as elvenly possible underneath that big huge wagon.
If only you'd rolled a gnome. All right, DC 14 Wisdom save. He's making his saves tonight. This is going to be a problem for the party. This dragonling obviously is shaking off the magic. The melee attacks are working, but the magic does not seem to be affecting this guy at all. Okay, so and it doesn't get half or anything, right? I don't think it does.
No.
Yeah. And the other cool thing is it doesn't have to. You don't have to share language, right? Vicious Mockery lets it. Yeah.
It
Cool.
just understands the general tone of my insult.
All right, let's put that there. All right, so that is the bottom of the round. This brings us around to, that was the third round. We're on the fourth round. Eingar, you are up. What would you like to do?
Igar is going to use a bonus action to cast Hunter's Mark
Okay.
on the dragon.
All right. Does that require any type of checks?
Nope.
There we go. I'll put a mark on it for you.
And then drop the bow and run in and swing with a hand axe.
All right.
Go in and help. Go in and help Irabel.
Yep. So go ahead and move yourself in. And go ahead and swing away. 19 is a hit. You guys are doing good on the melee hits. Go ahead and do damage. Oof, nice. It lets out another scream and a roar. Oh, and two more?
The Hunter's Mark gives me an extra d6 for damage.
Perfect. All right, so we see two good-sized wounds on it now. One on its back, one on its front chest area, as two of you are now attacking it. All right, so out of the clouds comes streaking down. By this time, I would probably... Oh, I don't want to do that. Don't do that. Let me see if I can grab Edgar here. I can't. Oh, it's because he's on the other layer. There we go. So he comes down out of the clouds, realizing the dragon is on the ground. I'll put him about there when he peeks down out. He's probably, again, 40 feet up at this point in the air. But what does Edgar do?
I do not want him getting too close to this dragon, so I am going to send him to check the other bodies and see if any of them have any signs of life.
Okay, yep, so you can go ahead and move him to where you want him to go.
He's 40 feet up at the moment, right?
Yeah, 40 feet up.
And so I'll have him fly down low to the ground first to try to avoid the dragon's notice, and then fly.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, and the one body he can get to from there, that one is clearly, that one is not, that one is deceased. So dragon's turn. It's going to try to knock you loose, Iravel. So let's do another opposed, unless you are just going to drop off. Are you trying to stay on it?
I will try to stay on if I can.
Okay, so yeah, let's do an opposed. It will use its strength to try to knock you off. All right, so you're able to use your elven reflexes to stay there. It's not really an action or anything. It's just what it's doing. It's trying to react to you at this point. It's... let's see. I'm going to say it's not super... Well, let me look. No, it's pretty smart. For some reason, I was thinking they weren't very smart, but this one's pretty smart.
That's Druben.
Yes, that's true. Probably doesn't recognize Druben on the ground, doesn't care. It definitely doesn't like Iravel on its back. So it's going to try to bite Eingar first. For a 9, which probably does not get through your armor class.
That would be a miss.
It's going to roll a dice. Okay. And it's then going to leap back into the air. And its movement, it's going to go... okay. 60 feet up into the air. And maybe it'll go 40 feet, but it makes a 5, 10. Wait, I'll do a 15, so it goes 35 feet in the air. It's 15 feet further on, 35 feet up. Iravel hanging on to the back of this dragon at this point. It is streaking up into the sky again. That would allow Drubrin. You could make an attack at disadvantage because it's leaving your as attack of opportunity, but you're on the ground at this point, so you get disadvantage for attacks while you're prone. Eingar, you get a free attack if you wish to use a reaction because it's leaving your melee range, and you get a free attack as it leaves its melee range if you would like to take it.
I will do that.
Okay, 9 would not be enough, so your axe hits it, but it's not able to cleave through the scales of the dragon. And Drubrin rolled a 10.
Yeah, my trunk misses. Doesn't get to punch it.
Okay, okay. And yeah, would miss. So again, you kind of hit at it, but it doesn't. You can tell you didn't do any damage or anything to it. So 35 feet in the air. That is its turn. Drubin, you are up.
Can the dragon be seen?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to use half my movement to stand up.
Okay.
The other half to move over to there. And then I'll cast... where is it? Guiding Bolt at the fleeing dragon.
All right, fire away.
You'll see the runes start to glow encircling his trunk, and he pulls back his hand. The runes leap out with the light, go to his hand, and he pushes out to hopefully hit with this guiding. I'm happy with that.
A 23 would hit.
For
Ooh,
12
nice.
radiant damage, and it is now glowing, making it easier to hit on the next attack.
Nice. Yeah, they get advantage, right? The next person to attack it?
Yes.
All right. Anything else from Drubrin?
No. He's done.
Okay. Brings us to Iravel. You are up. You're 35 feet off the ground, 30-ish feet off the ground. Dragon is winging as if it's going to go higher. What would you like to do?
I would like to punish it for making any such attempt, so I will
Okay.
use the Booming Blade cantrip along with the Shadow Blade.
Okay, so you cast the cantrip spell. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And what does it actually do, though, too?
Booming Blade, at the moment, because I'm not high enough level, does not do any additional damage at first, but if the creature is hit and it moves in its turn for the next turn, it takes additional damage from that.
Okay. All right, so you got advantage due to the guiding bolt, so the 23 gets through its armor, so you can go ahead and roll damage.
And I'll just hit the Shadow Blade spell. Obviously, it did hit, but I'm just going to roll that so I can roll the damage. And that's the kind of damage I was looking for.
Wow.
All right.
Nice.
Good one.
All right. Anything else?
I believe that's all I can do at the moment, so I'm just going to hang on for dear life.
Drubin will think he guided your strike quite well, sort of.
All right. That brings us to Milton, under the wagon.
The impressive magic display from our Loxodon, he will expound loudly on that, telling you that you are fantastic and that you should keep up the good work. Give you bardic inspiration.
All right.
And then at the same time, he will also try to remind that dragon that it's a coward and that clearly we are much scarier than wagons, and it should probably just come back and fight us instead.
All right.
And hit it with the vicious mockery again.
Yep. Go ahead and cast. DC 14 Wisdom. Misses this time, takes the 3.
And then its next attack, I think, is at disadvantage.
Okay. That's the end of that round. And believe this is now round number 5. Eingar, you are up. What would you like to do?
Seeing the dragon back up in the air, he's going to step over here again and pick up his bow.
Okay.
Will that take his whole turn?
You have to drop your weapon. So your axe got dropped at some point, probably back where you were. And then you ran over, you grabbed your bow as your free interaction. And then now you still have your action.
And I'll take a shot at the dragon.
Yep, go ahead and fire. And the arrow flies off, hits Irevel. No, I'm just kidding. It streaks off and misses as the dragon is beating its wings and heading further and further away. Okay, so with bow in hand, that would bring us now to any bonus action stuff, or are you all done?
That's
okay. Edgar.
Edgar is going to continue his mission to make sure that everybody is dead. I mean, check if anybody is alive.
Yeah, he's able to get around to all of the bodies at this point, and none of the bodies appear to be alive. Everything here now seems to be deceased.
Okay, and that's it from him.
All right, so our dragon friend is going to just dash into the sky. So that would put it now at 150 feet in the air at this point as it streaks up and away. The ground crew can't see it anymore. Irevel, you are definitely up in the clouds. So it just uses a dash at that point.
Is that booming blade damage?
Yeah, I rolled that 6 thunder damage.
Okay. So we hear a thunderous noise somewhere up in the clouds. And that is its turn. Drurin, Irevel, and the dragon have seemed to have disappeared from view back up into the haze and the clouds and the smoke. What do you do?
I guess I will move under this tree and get ready to cast a cantrip the next moment that I see the red dragon.
Okay. So Irevel, you need to make a definitely an athletics check. This is probably pretty tough at this point to hang on to this thing that is going at full speed now, straight up into the air. I will tell you the DC just so it's all. I'm thinking this is pretty intense. I'm thinking the DC for this is probably 15. So you can either make an acrobatics or a athletics check. DC 16, I think, would be.
That's a cakewalk for a blade singer. Come on.
He can probably make it.
Yeah, hopefully. And I will definitely go with acrobatics on.
Okay. Okay, so you are hanging on for dear life. You are clearly 150 feet. You cannot see the ground. It is white haze below you. What do you do? Now, this dragon is very wounded at this point. You see lots of wounds on it. It's clear to you that it's running. It's doesn't like what's happening. It's bleeding. It's getting hit from all over. It's crying out. It's roaring back and forth, and it's streaked up and it's heading south. What do you do?
First of all, as it dashed when it first took further up into the air, probably everybody else on the ground heard me shout out, "This was a bad idea." Once I'm up there, though, seeing its reaction and knowing that dragons are semi-intelligent creatures at the very least, I will put my shadow blade to its throat and in Sylvan threaten it. If you do not land, I will destroy us both. If you land, you will be spared.
It is pretty smart. Roll me a perception check with advantage. You realize it can hear you. You get the impression it doesn't understand your language.
All right. I will go ahead and...
Are you going to make me look up the falling rules? Is this what's going to happen here? Is this going to get bad?
There's like three worst case scenarios here. There's nothing good here. Yeah.
Yeah, 1d6 bludgeoning for every 10 feet it fell to a maximum of 20d6. So there's a maximum number.
It would still almost definitely overkill me. At 150 feet up we are?
150 feet.
Cut off a wing, make a hang glider.
Come on, you're a mage. You got fairy feather fall in your pocket, don't you?
No, I'm kind of wishing I hadn't teleported onto it.
I was just thinking he had a teleport.
To the ground. This is a tough call. I am going to... Can I actually... This is going to be really difficult, I'm sure, but can I actually try to steer it?
How to train a dragon.
Okay, so
Animal handling.
I'm thinking grappling, right? Because when you grapple, you're reaching onto something and then you're trying to maneuver whatever you've grappled. It is a medium-sized creature, so the weight of it and your weight of it, it's not like it's a large or something so big that you wouldn't be able to affect it. So I think you could. And I think it's going to be opposed because it's obviously not going to try to let you maneuver it. So let's just go with grappling. Let's do an opposed. So now for this, you need to use your strength because you're trying to force it to do something with all of your might. It's going to try to resist you with its strength. So we're going to do opposing strength checks.
Okay, big money, no whammies.
Yeah, so here we go. Here's its strength check. Oh, I rolled low. Okay. So what I will do...
Drive that dragon.
Let's see. So it moves on its turn. So when we come back to its turn, let's decide what happens there. Because that's going to definitely be your full action.
That is very fair.
Okay, so all right, so Blade Song, I think I already did down to 5. Milton, Irovel's disappeared, Dragon's disappeared. What do you do?
I'm gonna jump up and start searching the unburned wagon above me.
Okay, when you pull the tarp off, you see what looks to be like bolts of cloth.
I'll sift through them really quick.
You can tell that it's silk, and it just seems to be a wagon load of these silk cloth. I mean, it's clear that it's some type of merchant's wagon or a load of trade goods of some sort. Definitely all. There's nothing. You don't see anything hidden. You don't see anything. It's just one big wagon of silk bolts.
I've got no idea what he's talking about. Clearly nobody here to save. And nobody in ag.
Anything else for Milton?
No, just listen for the faint screams.
Yes, they're coming. All right, Eingar, your companion has disappeared. Oh my God, what's happening there? Oh boy, who's trying to crash?
My bad.
All right, Eingar's up.
All right. While I'm scanning this guy, I'm going to step over here and pick up my hand axe and put it back in my belt.
Okay.
And go check on Milton, make sure he's okay. And probably suggest that we move this wagon away from, see if we can't push it away from this burning tree.
I'll help out with that while I pretend to be brave.
All right.
Probably move it north a little bit.
Let's have you guys you can do a strength roll. You have Milton helping you, so you'll get advantage, but it's a heavy wagon, so it's going to take a pretty high roll. I'm thinking you'll get advantage, so you get 2 rolls, but probably like a DC 18 strength check to make this thing roll. All right, you get it to begin to move away from the burning tree. Edgar, what do you do? What's Edgar the Raven do?
Edgar is probably, I would assume he has some sense of where I am. He saw me fly off on the dragon's back. Probably just having a panic attack at the moment.
Okay. Panic attack, Edgar. Dragon. So here's, I think, what we'll do. You were successful, so half of its movement, you decide what happens, and it decides what happens on the other half of its movement. So 60 feet, you get to decide, and then it gets to decide 60 feet. So what are you going to do for your 60 feet?
I am going to push this guy straight down.
Okay, so we're at 150. It's flying to the south. You wrench on it, and that makes it go into a dive as it's struggling and fighting against you, bleeding out with all of its wounds. So from 150, it gets all the way down. You're about 90 feet. You're still kind of in the haze. You probably see the tops of trees below you, though I don't think the trees would be 90 feet tall. Like, how tall is a tree? I don't even know.
What type of tree?
Just any regular old tree. How tall do trees get?
Redwoods get really tall.
Trees can get up above 100 feet.
Can they? Okay, so yeah, you probably see the tops of trees then.
Well, I'm assuming this is its turn, though, so I can't do anything else than that, right?
Well, you can let go.
I once saw John Rambo dive out of a helicopter, fall through a bunch of trees, and he was fine.
Yeah, nothing can happen.
Can I let go but give it a parting attack as I let go?
No, because it's not your turn. You would just be letting go on its turn.
Dude, ride that thing down. Kill it. Make it a belt.
Run him into a tree.
It's your moment of glory.
It still gets its movement. It has half of its movement left. So you're at the downward arc. You can feel it starting to fight against you and pull up.
You still have Bardic Inspiration, too.
Would it be possible to make an attack at all, or is it just let go or don't let go?
Yeah, on your turn it would be, but not on its turn, no. This is your chance to decide you're sticking with it or you're letting go. And it alleviates me of all guilt if you die at this point.
Yeah, I am not going to risk falling 150 feet, so I will go ahead and make the descent and try to use a tree to break my fall.
Okay. Well, you're pretty dexterous. All right, so you are 90 feet off the ground. The dragon uses the rest of its movement as you let go. You can see the trees below you that are in the smoke and the shroud, and the dragon then bursts back up into as high and getting away from you as much as possible. Again, it is very wounded at this point and flies 60 feet up and is heading south. And that will be its turn. You are in free fall. Drubrin, back over. You see the wagon being moved by Eingar and Milton. What would you like to do? No sign of the dragon at the moment. You don't even hear it.
I guess I'll move over there and see if there's anything I can do to help at this point.
Okay. All right. I mean, you can help keep moving the wagon away from the fire at that point. This one is definitely completely on fire and gone. Whatever was in it is destroyed. These two, you guys have been able to maneuver. The two back ones seem to be fine. This one's been destroyed, though there are 4 crates down here at the bottom that were saved by Iravel earlier on.
His parting gift.
All right, so... Oh, any more? Go ahead.
I guess I'll try to push this one to the north a bit,
Okay, go ahead and do a strength check. DC 18. Oh, that was those guys. Yeah, they're moving the wagon. Gotcha. Or Loxodon. Nope. So, yeah, you can tell that it's weighted down enough. It's in enough of a rut from the mud and the ground that's begun to soften up from all the fires that are happening, and you're not budging it.
Would the DC have changed since I got powerful build, so our class is one size larger when trying to push, pull, drag things?
Yes, though I think 13 would not have been enough. I think you still would have had to been a little higher.
I'll use my Bardic die one.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Come on, 6. 5.
Oh, yeah. You're easily able to move it. All right, nicely done. Let's take the Bardic die off. There we go. All right, Iravel, free fall. Let's decide what the heck's going to happen here. So, you definitely get a chance to try to use the trees to lessen your fall. This to me would be probably, again... God, it's got to be the strength of you being able to hold on to a branch that's passing by you, because you're free falling. You don't really have maneuverability. You're just kind of free falling at this point. So I think we're going to do a strength check. It's got to be super high to slow your descent. So I'm going to say DC 17, you are able to use branches, grab onto them to slow yourself enough that we will just roll damage from you grabbing trees and the wrenching of your muscles, and you hit a couple of branches, maybe 2 or 3 on the way down, and then you finally stop. A bad roll, you get your... we're going to do just the regular falling damage to see what happens.
All right, here goes nothing.
Oh boy.
Not a natural, at least. But
Oh boy.
gonna suck.
Okay.
I'm assuming the bardic die would probably not help me here either.
It's not going to get you high enough from a 1. No, if it's no. Oh no. Okay. So what we see now is Iravel reaching out. His fingertips slam past several branches as he tries to grab for this one, just misses it, and then says, no, I'll try for this other one. But he's already past that one, and is like, no, I'll try for this other one, and he's past that one. And let's do, I looked up the environment roll here. 1d6 damage, 10 feet fell for each 10 feet. So it's going to be 1d6 for 9 of those, but I'm going to do 8 of them. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So here we go. Oh my god.
Probably kill me outright.
It might. This could be bad.
How far do you have to go past your original hit points for overkill?
Double.
Oof.
So we need... I got to roll low.
If it's less than 46, I live. Well, if they find.
Woo!
28
unconscious, but
points of
not
damage.
dead.
All right, so what we see is you barrel through and you hit a few branches and we see the puff of snow that comes off them. And then we hear this wet smack into the ground and we see Iravel plummet through this tree and land on the ground and is just out. Right. Now, are you unconscious?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, and we just see the poof as he hits, and we don't have to be in turn order for that anymore. What does the group do as they recognize this elf comes streaking out of the sky, crashes through the trees, and lands to the ground?
Well, Drubin would run over and use his healing light to give him 1d6 hit points.
All right. So, yeah, you're able to run over and you begin to cure him. The first thing you recognize is the amount of damage he's taken. You feel like it starts to bind the broken bones, but you also feel like it hasn't done anything to remove the pain, and it hasn't done anything. Like, you go sheet white. You're very kind of wobbly. You probably almost feel like you have like a level of exhaustion. Even though you're healed, you're not going to die. That was a very traumatic thing to happen to your body, and then immediately try to get some health from it. But you are stabilized, healed, and you don't have to worry about death saves or anything like that. And you were able to heal Iravel, and you see just bones begin to knit back into shape as you help maneuver his arm back into the right position and his leg or whatever, and begin to tend to him. What's the rest of the group doing?
I'm just going to go down there and see if he needs any more help.
So, okay. Go ahead and head down there.
I'm going to look around for a bow on any of these fallen people. Some other kind.
Yeah, I think you would find probably a bow or two laying about. I don't think that would be too hard to find.
All right. With shaking hands, I'm going to grab the bow, knock an arrow, and just watch this guy.
I also cast Cure Wounds once I get close enough to heal his wounds properly.
Yeah, same thing. I think all the healing is going to help his body get back into shape. I just feel like he's going to feel exhausted until he has at least a short rest to recuperate. But he is doing good and doing better now. All right. So 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, no sign of the dragon.
Incidentally, once I had initially regained consciousness and was kind of sort of mended, you would have just seen me still laying on my back, just weakly hold my hand up like, exactly as planned.
About 15 minutes goes by, no sign of the dragon. Iravel is looking a little better.
Well, I guess we try to sort out these carp.
Well, so yeah, what does the group do? Half hour goes by. It's clear at this point. You're pretty sure the dragon's not coming back. What would the group like to do?
Silk's got to be worth something back at town. Should we just go?
Is the cart too heavy for us to transport ourselves, or will we just have to take what we can carry?
Over a long trip, all four of you working together, you could probably pull a wagon, would be reasonable over long distance. You're going to have to come up with some other idea if you're going to try to do more than that, more than a single wagon.
Can we try and track down some of these horses that were chased?
Hey man, this is D&D. You can try anything. Survival check.
I'm going to try and track down some horses. At least.
Yeah, go ahead. Roll a survival check to take a look at the tracks.
Nice.
You are able to round up 4 of the horses. You find the corpses of a couple of them that had been attacked after they had ran and had clear large gouge marks and charcoaled skin, and I guess horses have fur, right? They kind of have like a hair hide kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a couple of them had been attacked and had been taken out by the dragon, obviously. But you're able to bring back 4 of the horses. They are clearly work animals, and though the harnesses that they've used were all kind of torn apart, you guys are able to just kind of temporarily rig together using maybe ropes from your packs and try to kind of rig two horses per cart, and now you're able to move 2 of the carts.
While we're working on the rigging up the harnesses and stuff, I am going to point out to Iravel's bird where some of the dead horses are.
Edgar very much appreciates it and flies off to have a bit of a
Horse
recovery
eyeballs.
snack.
That's his promised feast, right?
That's his promised feast.
You owe me.
All right, so you guys are able to latch on these horses, and I assume you're tracking back.
What were
Yes.
in those crates that Iravel got out of the other wagon?
You're going to open them?
I'm curious.
Okay, so you open them? Okay. The crates are filled with what looks to be like dried foods.
Snacks
stack
for
all
on the way
those?
back.
Can we stack them into everything that we find into the 2?
Yeah, so you have 4 crates that look like they were dried food, dried fruit goods, and obviously to make it easier to transport. And then the other 2 wagons that were at the back were the wagons that were hauling a full load of bolts of silk, elven silk.
Are we able to bring the corpses, or at least bury them if necessary?
Group's got to decide on that.
can we maybe not the corpses, but maybe some of the clothing or something that they might be wearing that would identify who it is?
Yeah, at the very least, Drubin would feel more comfortable if we at least put them to rest.
Yeah, Iravel as well. Although he will also kind of go over what they have on them and see if there's any maps or anything like that that they may have had to indicate where they were from or where they were going.
Loot the bodies.
I think your ideas are noble, but digging in a cold, frozen ground is not my idea of a good day's task.
Do we know the elven rites of funeral?
There's 2 burning wagons right there. We could burn the bodies.
Like a funeral pyre.
Sure.
The dead don't care what happens to their bodies as long as their spirits pass on.
Yep, let's do it.
Funeral pyre it is then.
All right. Searching the bodies, they are just wearing sturdy clothing. It's clear that they are probably, like the stuff that you would think somebody driving a wagon would wear. Workman's kind of clothes, though, finer as far as elven type of clothing a little bit. You do find a map that shows a city to the north, so far to the north that it's not on any map that you've seen. So it's obviously much further north. And it seems like they had marked in Elven a symbol where you suspect would be Port Bastion.
Does it seem like that's where they were heading?
Nothing on the map indicates anything else except those 2 things. Our elven people can take a look at the symbol. It's like it's an elven word.
Take a look at it.
We do so.
Okay. Yeah, and it says the word, it's the elven word for treaty. Or agreement or understanding. It's kind of like, depending on what context it's used in, is the way you would take the meaning.
Did you say treaty?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, cut out a little bit there at the end.
Okay, yep. All right, so our pretty beat up group makes it back to Port Bastion as you come into sight of the gates and you see them open and you bring in your wagon loads of textiles here. And that's where we will end tonight's session, as you guys have made it back after 2 days of travel heading back. Let us dole out the rewards for our characters who have done a fantastic job of taking on a dragon wormling, a red dragon wormling. And so experience for that is, where's my calculator? For everybody, we'll get 275 experience for tonight's session.
Level up.
Yay. Did anybody pass? Milton passed his roll, so that gives you an extra 25 XP. Good job, Milton.
That puts you at level 2, doesn't it, Milton?
Is it 300?
Yeah.
It does.
Oh, crazy. All right. And then I assume you're not keeping the textiles. You're going to sell them for profit. Is that true, or do you guys want to keep it?
Unless anybody else has any other plans.
And
I don't have
didn't you
any
want to
plans.
start a haberdashery or something?
Retire, open up a clothing store. All right, you search around town. There are several people that are super interested in the high quality elven silk. For both wagon loads, you were offered 10,000 gold.
Nice.
Very nice.
Does the group split it? I assume, because everybody kind of goes their own ways at this point. All right.
Sounds like a plan to me.
So well done. Though you
That's
did
enough to
not
buy
make
me
it.
passage out of this godforsaken
Could
land.
go. It is a big chunk of money, and you see the rest of the adventurers. Word gets around quickly, even though you would probably try to keep it quiet. The secret gets out even before you make it back to the lovely coin. That's one of the biggest hauls any of the expeditions have come back with thus far. And now there seems to be a fevered pitch of expeditions that are wanting to go out and thinking they can also find their fortune out there just like you guys did. And you will find many other adventurers, new and old, try to buy you drinks to hear the story. And you can tell they're trying to wheedle out exactly where you were and any information they can get. And it's obvious that they're trying to find some piece of information that's going to help them find a bunch of gold also, just like you would get in any gold rush kind of situation. And the tavern is abuzz with your guys' exploits and the story of fighting the red dragon wormling is going around. All right, so that is it for tonight's session. Though you did not make it to your actual destination, that will have to be left for some other expedition, whether it's this group or a different group at a different time. But that's all we have for tonight. I hope you stayed around and enjoyed watching some Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition homebrew seeking Revonar as our characters had a hopefully fun adventure. If you want to check out the VODs, if you missed anything, or you can go to YouTube, which I'll post this up on YouTube so that you can watch it probably in a couple of days or so. And you can see it there. Keep an eye out. I believe we have a game on Thursday, so there may be another game this week on Thursday. Swing by the channel at 8:30 p.m. Eastern if you want to see that one. I believe that one's being done by Alberix, and we'll see who's going to go out on that. And that's all we have for tonight. So thanks for stopping by. And if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. Leave comments below if there's anything you liked or didn't like or would like to see more of. I always like to hear feedback. Other than that, everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll see you in the next one.